Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udiraye. So the first set of mantras, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, are offering obeisances to Krishna, who is all-pervading, who's the well-wisher of all living beings. And the next mantra, Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam, offering obeisances to Narayan, the Supreme Personality of God, Narayan Rishi, who's his expansion, and Goddess Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and to Srila Vyasadeva, Srila Dvaipayana Vyasadeva, whose Vyasa is a title, it means the editor, one who brings the vast body of knowledge known as the Vedas into compartments so that people can utilize them, and then expands them further into the Upanishads, and then condenses the Upanishads again into the Vedanta Sutra so that it can be transported amongst great thinkers who can expand upon it. And then we have the Puranas, who are the histories that prove the tenets of the Vedas. And then you have the Itihasas, the histories like Mahabharata. And then you have the hierarchy of Puranic literature, which according to our acharyas, especially Srila Jiva Goswami, are more important than the original Vedas, because for practical purposes, to understand the Vedas requires a different environment altogether than we have here in Vermont. And one can then hear the conclusions amongst the Vedas themselves because they're personified, and the Puranas themselves, who are also personified. And they're all offering obeisances to the Bhagavat Purana, or the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is known as the Amala Purana. It's the perfect Purana, and therefore Chaitanya Mahaprabhu considered it to be the ultimate authority on everything. What's more, the Srimad Bhagavatam is known as the sound vibration of the spiritual world. Tad bhag visargo janataga viplavo yasmin prati shlokam abhadyavatyapi namanyanantasya shon kitaniya shrinvanti gayanti grananti sadhava. That it doesn't come from this world, it comes from a different realm altogether. And viplava means that if you listen submissively to the Srimad Bhagavatam, or unsubmissively, whichever way you want to go, the easy way or the hard way, then your perception of, you'll be flipped. Viplava means flipped over. Right now we're flipped over. The Srimad Bhagavatam describes how the conundrum of the living entity, bhayam dvitiya abhinibheshatas.
I've been up for a while.
Ishad apetasya viparya yosmiti tanmayata buddha abhajetam bhaktyayka yesham gurudevatam, which means that what's the problem we're solving? We've become focused on something other than Krishna. That's the problem. And the solution is turn your attention back to Krishna. And the way to do that is by hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, because it has everything that we're eager to hear. It has romance, it has intrigue, it has war, politics, action. If you want to hear about the greatest battles in the world, they're in the Srimad Bhagavatam. If you want to hear about the greatest folly in the world, you find it in Srimad Bhagavatam. Everything's covered. So, therefore, tato jayam udirayat. In the verse that we chanted secondly, tato jayam udirayat, says, this is our very means of conquest. And Srila Prabhupada, when he was on the Jaladuta, the boat coming to America, he wrote in his diary that this will be the main process by which we can transform individuals, human society in general, by the Srimad Bhagavatam. So we're on verse number 1 to 18? 19. 19? Yes. Yes. I'll say, please repeat. Tada rajas tamo bhava kamalopa dayaschaye cheta eter anavidam sutam sattve prasidati. And the translation is, as soon as irrevocable, loving service is established in the heart, the effects of nature's modes of passion and ignorance, such as lust, desire, and hankering, disappear from the heart. Then the devotee is established in goodness and he becomes completely happy. And Prabhupada wrote the following purport. A living being in his normal constitutional position is fully satisfied in spiritual bliss. This state of existence is called Brahmabhuta, or Atmanandi, or the state of self-satisfaction. This self-satisfaction is not like the satisfaction of the inactive fool. The inactive fool is in the state of foolish ignorance, whereas the self-satisfied Atmanandi is transcendental to the material state of existence. This stage of perfection is attained as soon as one is fixed in irrevocable devotional service. Devotional service is not inactivity, but the unalloyed activity of the soul. The soul's activity becomes adulterated in contact with matter, and as such, the diseased activities are expressed in the form of lust, desire, hankering, inactivity, foolishness, and sleep. The effect of devotional service becomes manifest by complete elimination of these effects of passion and ignorance. The devotee is fixed at once in the mode of goodness, and he makes further progress to rise to the position of Vasudeva, or the state of unmixed sattva or Shuddha sattva. Only in this Shuddha sattva state can one always see Krishna eye to eye, by dint of pure affection for the Lord. A devotee is always in the mode of unalloyed goodness, therefore he harms no one. But the non-devotee, however educated he may be, is always harmful. A devotee is neither foolish nor passionate. The harmful, foolish, and passionate cannot be devotees of the Lord. However, they may advertise themselves as devotees by outward dress. A devotee is always qualified with all the good qualities of God. Quantitatively, such qualifications may be different, but, quantitatively, such qualifications may be different, but qualitatively, both the Lord and His devotee are one and the same. And before adding any comment, I offer my respectful obeisances to my spiritual master, His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, and to all the assembled devotees. Vanchakalpataruscha, Kripasindavevacha, Patitanam Pavanibhyo, Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. So the first word in the verse is tada, which means at that time. This is indicative of the stages of advancement in devotional service, which are marked by specific characteristics. In the beginning, one may practice devotional service based on shraddha. Shraddha. Da is an active verb. It means where you place something. And shrad means the heart. So everyone is dedicated in some way. That's the nature of the living force. In the mode of ignorance, people are dedicated to intoxication. You'll never see anybody more dedicated practically than somebody addicted to something. They just night and day. And then there's the mode of passion. One is addicted to making advancement. Wherever I am now, I have to go to the next level. And in the mode of goodness, one becomes dedicated to knowledge and the pursuit of happiness, which is in harmony with nature and with the body and so forth. And when one comes in contact with devotees who have a special quality. That is, they have affection for Krishna. This is described, Bhavad Vida Bhagavatas Tirtha Bhuta Swayam Bibo Tirtha Kurvanti Tirtani Svantakstena Gadabrata. It's Yudhishthira told Vidura that you carry a special quality in your heart. When you move about and you come in contact, people come in contact with you, they perceive the spiritual world because of the nature of your heart. It's a tirtha. Tirtha means a bridge from the material world to the spiritual world. So when you go to a tirtha like Vrindavan, for instance, and you step in Vrindavan, you feel you're making a connection to the spiritual world. So devotees who have this affection for Krishna in their heart, they're also tirthas. They're a bridge for us. So when we come in contact with a devotee, then we feel something different. We'd like to change our mind about our actions in life just by coming in contact. And this is called shraddha, the awakening of the heart to a higher calling, that I want to do something more than I'm doing now. I perceive that this person has the answer to life's conundrums. And from that first association that grows into shraddha, then comes a determination. The determination changes, and now I want to follow in the footsteps of such a person. It's called bhajana kriya. Kriya means there's something to do. So what are you going to do now that you have this awakening of the heart? Bhajan. Bhajana kriya means that I'm going to practice what this person practiced. And what is that? It's the tenets of bhakti yoga. And in the beginning stage, one has faith that there are directives coming from scripture and from a spiritual person that I can follow, and we'll all make advancement. And we repose our faith there. For instance, okay, Bhagavad Gita, I trust it, it's Krishna's words. I trust the devotee speaking on behalf of Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita. And that means I can take up a process. So a process given by the Acharya is very important. As mentioned in Srimad Bhagavatam, 10th canto, 2nd chapter, Swayam Bhujaksha Kila Sattvadami Samadhina Veshita Chetasaike Tvatpada Potena Mahakritena Kurvanti Kuvatsak Padam Bhavabdim. And that is, normally the material world is very difficult to cross over. Nobody can do it. But if you come in contact with Mahat, a great soul, and with Krishna, the greatest of all souls, who gives you information about how to cross. Here's a process. It's vetted. You follow this process and you trust the process, just like you trust medicine. When you come get it from a doctor you trust. Got a diploma on the wall and it doesn't say YouTube. It says, I went to such and such place and I'm fully qualified. I'm vetted. And you take that process, pada potena mahakritena, then that process becomes effective. And then it's much easier to cross over the material world. In fact, it says here that the material world's an ocean. How are you ever going to swim across the ocean? But it'll shrink once you take the process and you'll be able to step over it. How much does it shrink? To the size of the hoof print of a calf. That's even smaller. So once one's doing this bhajana kriya, then one may notice that, there are a lot of impediments to my practicing because I have momentum from all of my previous activities. I'm used to listening to certain things. I'm used to ingesting certain things and working in a certain way, getting up at a certain time. All these habits that I've accumulated. We accumulate everywhere we go. We're little containers, and everyone we hang out with, we take in another little thing. It's there, recorded. And all of those begin to speak all at one time when we take up bhajana kriya. It's like, what about me? What about me? I used to do this, or what did I do that? And it's built into the senses. The senses have a specific modality, literally, and they are attracted to certain sense objects because of previous habits. But when one takes the process of devotional service, sarvopadi vanirmuktam tat prapena nirmalam rishi kena rishi kesha sevanam bhakti rucite. What we're basically doing is using our senses in the service of Krishna. And as we do that, our senses become purified of those previous inclinations they had. And one of the most important senses, or the gateway sense to all the other senses, is the tongue. Therefore, the Padma Purana says, Ata Shri Krishna Namadi Navaved Graham Indriye Sevamukhi Jivado Swayameva Sparatyada. Yoga begins with the tongue. And if you can use your tongue in service to Hrishikesh, then all the other senses will gradually follow. And Krishna will reveal himself. So the interim period after we take up the process called Bhajana Kriya, and when we come to a safe place where we feel steadiness and consistency, our practice becomes so consistent, we notice it ourselves, and we may be surprised by it. Say, how did I come to this? I'm not sleepy. I'm not eager to go somewhere else. I don't seek distraction. That's rajas in the mind. You're chanting and you think, let me go somewhere else. That's rajas, pushing us. All of these pushings that come from the lower modes of material nature that we've taken into our system, they're gradually purged by the direct process of devotional service, especially chanting Hare Krishna, using one's tongue, as we were doing this morning. And then one comes to niṣṭhā. It's cognate with the word stand in English, which means you have a place where you can stand safely and you're not pushed along by the modes of nature. And that's what this verse is talking about, the process. In fact, it's a paragraph. It starts with Shushu Shorashadhanasya Vasudeva Kata Ruci Syan Mahat Sevaya Vipra Punya Tirtana Shevana. It's describing what I said first. It's when you come in contact with great souls, you notice it. It's different. It's not like meeting a famous rock star or politician or anybody like that. It's very different. You have a change of heart. And then if you try to do a little service, then all of a sudden you have a chip in the bhakti circle.
Meeting you.
Yeah. Kochira koso, as they say in Japan. Same back to you. And so that starts the process as I described. Then the next verse says, Shrinvatam swakata Krishna punya shravana kirtana hridyantaksto hibadrani vidhunoti suritsatam. Then you become eager to hear more, as we're invited to listen carefully. And those who lean into the hearing then get helped by Krishna within the heart. In fact, this is one of the themes in the Bhagavatam, is that the Bhagavatam is so special that Krishna himself is attracted to it. It's not just about him, it's about his devotees, and that's what he's most interested in. That's his favorite topic, and that's his preoccupation, is trying to satisfy his devotees. So when you hear Srimad Bhagavatam, Krishna is in your heart, Shrinvatam Swakata Krishna. He's also hearing that you're hearing the Bhagavatam, and then he becomes the vidhunoti. Vidhunoti is the person who helps you to winnow out those things that you don't need. And he's an active agent there that helps you. And then comes niṣṭhā prayeshu bhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavat yuttama shloke bhakti bhavati naishtiki. This is a period where you'll start to notice that you're making advancement. And how do you do it? Nityam bhagavata sevaya. You're steady at hearing Bhagavatam. And niṣṭhā prayeshu abhadreshu. Almost all the things that were bothering you before, that were distracting you, almost all, not all, but mostly, you're noticing they're diminishing. Niṣṭhā prayeshu abhadreshu. Abhadreshu means, bhadra means something that it's a gain. It's a good fortune. It's your asset. But abhadra means all the things that they're not helping you. Like, hey, you're not helping me here. Like, beat it, would you? But Krishna helps, and then gradually those are diminishing. Nityam Bhagavata Seva, it happens by being steady at hearing. Bhagavatyuttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. So you start to feel some steady, but that steadiness, and here comes the point, today's verse, in the description of the progression of bhakti, and that is tada. And so, when we were kids, when we do a magic show for one another, and we reveal something, we, pull the little handkerchief off the rabbit or whatever we had, and go tada. And so here, it really means at that time. And it's a revelation. Ta-da, here it is. It happened. How could it ever happen? It's impossible to overcome the lower nature. Practically impossible. Yogis try it, everyone tries it, and somehow or other we always find ourselves back sitting in a corner with an empty half-gallon of ice cream and a spoon in our hand. And like, what happened? I was on Weight Watchers and now I just ate 500 points in one sitting. So, whatever it might be, it's difficult, impossible to overcome the waves of material nature. But then, tada, the impossible happens. Rajas, tamo, bhava, kama, lobha, daya. These are mentioning all the stuff that you want to get rid of, that is the bane of the soul in the material world. Tada rajas, tamo, bhava, kama, lobha, dayaschaye. Cheta iter anavidam, but then the cheta, the consciousness, it becomes clear. Cheta iter anavidam stitam sattve prasidati, because you rise above even normal sattva. Sattva, we have tamas, rajas, sattva, but then there's shuddha sattva. So in this verse it's describing when you touch what's beyond the material world, these three modalities, and you come to the pure stage of Shuddha Sattva. Stitam, you become situated there. Sattve means Shuddha Sattva, prasidati. And prasidati comes from the word prasad. Prasad means mercy. It flows down to you. And this comes by one's diligent practice of hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, chanting Hare Krishna, following the four regulative principles. Raga dvesha vimuktaistu vishayana indrayeshtaram atmavashera videyatma prasadam adhigacchati. There it is again in the Bhagavad Gita. Krishna says, those who practice the regulative principles of freedom, they're able to receive the mercy of the Lord. It descends. It comes down. It falls like rain down to the soul. And that's what's happening in this verse, is the person has come to this stage, noticeably free from the modes of material nature, noticeably receiving mercy from Krishna. It's directly perceived by that person. And now we'll take a few reflections or questions, because 6 minutes left.
Right,
yes?
So after the Vachana Kriya, were you describing the Anartha Vritti?
Yes.
Yes, and then comes the
niṣṭhā.
Right, okay, wasn't sure.
And it's broken down by Viśvanāth Cakravartī Ṭhākur in the Madhurya Kadambinī. He says, when you eliminate certain obstacles, then you're known to be in niṣṭhā. And I mentioned some of them, like sleep, distraction, the awakening of lower desires, suddenly they come out in different ways. Indifference, you're not distracted, you're not sleepy, but you just don't care. Meh. All of that evaporates in time by good association, by following the process, and then one has this sense of no obstacle. There's nothing holding me back from the process. And that's called niṣṭhā. Steadiness, consistency. And from that platform, then one can make further advancement in devotional service. Otherwise, we're always knocked back. So it's recommended that we really invest ourselves in getting over that mire, getting out of the mire of bad qualities by seriously practicing devotional service till we come to niṣṭhā. Then we can proceed to the next stage, which is ruci, where it's noticeable that we really want to hear, and I'll let people more ask questions. Yes, brother.
This reflection, I really liked the point of the process that's given is vetted. We give a verse in the 10th canto about how if you want to cross the ocean, you follow the mat, the great souls, and then their process that they leave behind on this side actually shrinks the ocean very much down. So just thinking about that time-saving process of actually not having to reinvent the wheel in anything, in any science or art or craft. You stand on the shoulders of giants. You actually just receive the wisdom that's come. Otherwise, you're either ungrateful or you're wasting your time trying to figure it out on your own. The hard work's already been done. The map's already been drawn. So spiritually, it's very relieving. But although we have our work to do, it's not like we're actually creatively doing anything, from our own genius. It's just, here's the process. Can you be simple enough to apply it in your life?
Yeah, thank you. And a couple points. One is prescription from authorized medical practitioner is you sense relief already, because if you trust the doctor, then you trust the medicine, you trust the process, even though you don't know what's in the medicine, because who's going to go into pharmacy and figure it out? And
Routine's a pharmacist.
okay, but I mean, I'm not going to, because I know how long it takes to become a pharmacist. And even even with medicine, not everyone, even you might know the composition. We don't exactly know how it works or how it doesn't work also, like what are the side effects. It's mystery. There's some mystery in everything. But when we trust the process and so forth, then we're already on the path to recovery, because psychologically it was like, okay, I'm following the right thing. And when you said, still we have our work to do, that's important, because we may take the process, trust the process. There can be a way in which we come into the process, say, well, because I'm in it, I don't have to try that hard because I've already accepted it, therefore I'm saved. And this tendency just to say, well, I'm in an organization, I'm following some process, therefore that's it, I don't have to do anything else. We need to do our own work. We have to have our own realization directly from the process itself. Chaitanya Charan gives this example. Somebody decides they want to become fit, so they sign up for a gymnasium. They don't call them gymnasiums anymore. That's why I used the word. I thought it would be a little anachronistic. So then they go there, and some trainer says, you lift this weight, put it back down, lift it, put it back down. And so then they go home and they go, yeah, I'm a little sore, and also, yeah, that was a little hard work. And so they said, but I don't want to not go, so I paid for it. They go to the gymnasium. They say, I'll go, I just won't lift the weight. I'll move my arm. And then no tangible advancement, because you have to challenge your muscles in order for them to expand. So then someone might be in the process but not do the heavy lifting of actually listening to the japa and reaching the stage we talked about this morning of absorption, that I'm there and I don't notice what time it is, and when I reach the time I'm supposed to stop, I don't want to stop. Those are good signs. We have to try for that ourselves. God helps those who help themselves. And Prabhupada said helping oneself means putting oneself in front of transcendental sound vibration. So we have to do our part. Nirkula likes to give this example, so I'll just do it for you. That in the story in the Damodar Leela, when Mother Jashoda is chasing after Krishna, finally he agrees to be bound by the rope. In the beginning, she's 2 inches too short no matter how much she adds on. So Viśvanāth Cakravartī gives us insight that these 2 inches are significant. 1 inch means that's our endeavor. We have to try really hard. The 2nd inch is Krishna noticing how hard we're trying and saying, okay, you did your work. And Prabhupada says about Arjuna, Krishna gave the instruction to Arjuna at Kurukshetra, but then he asked him to fight. And Prabhupada said, he didn't say, you can sit down in your chariot and smoke ganja. He said, no, now you have to take the instruction and fight. And Prabhupada repeated, have to sit down on the chariot and smoke ganja. So we've done our best to serve the Srimad Bhagavatam and the previous acharyas, and that brings us to the next part of our program. Yes. Yes, please.
In the beginning, you were speaking about Shraddha, and when I think of Shraddha, I often simply think of faith. But you were speaking about where you place your heart, like where you place your faith, and doing that in a way that's leading to your higher calling versus, placing my faith in that it's always going to be sunny or whatever it may be, any material thing. That it's where you place your heart. Which also led me to a question around anarcha nivritti, and you spoke to it a little bit, but when I find myself in that stage, and I feel like I'm there, often of beyond, so keep chanting, keep hearing, and when the impurities come up, or my anarthas, these things that I'm working through and trying to release, what advice, guidance, support could you give to continue that, to be inspired, to continue, to not think, oh, I'm fallen, or which I am, but I can rise above this. I can let this go. This won't be forever if I continue my practice. But any guidance around that?
In the 10th canto, 2nd chapter, 10th canto, 1st chapter of the Bhagavatam, which describes the appearance of Krishna, there are a couple of purports that describe, maybe it's 2nd chapter, or maybe it's 3rd, that Devaki, who is prophesied to give birth to Krishna, a child, said the prophecy will be Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But then you have Kamsa, who rose to power, dominated everybody. Everybody either fled or they bent their knee to him and said, okay, I don't want to be destroyed, I don't want to lose my stuff, so I'll join you. And he had complete control over everything. And his main objective in life was to make sure that Krishna, if he appeared, he didn't live. Because he was aware of the fact that in his last life he had been Kalanemi, and he had been slain by Vishnu, and he was a sworn enemy of Krishna. And of course, people who get in power, they just want to keep their power. Michel's iron laws of oligarchy state that people, even if they have a benevolent purpose in life, once they get power, they get corrupted by it, and they use all their energies and their resources to protect their power rather than trying to do the good they were supposed to do. So that was the situation, and it was very dangerous because there were agents of Kamsa out hunting for Krishna everywhere, and then they became indiscriminate. They just started killing every child they could find. A hellish situation. And so Devaki, who knew Krishna was going to take birth, was in abject fear. And she was afraid, she wanted to protect Krishna. And so there, in the commentaries, it's Prabhupada's commentaries there, he's quoting Viśvanāth Cakravartī Ṭhākur, saying that Devaki's fear, okay, this is a little slightly, it goes with the allegory of what happened. The 6 sons of Devaki were first born, were they're called Sadgarbha Asuras. They had been cursed in a previous life to take birth there and then be killed one after another. It's a little convoluted story, but they represent Kam, Krodh, Lobh, Mada, Moha, and Matsarya. These are the 6 items that are listed in this verse. Tada rajas tamo bhava, Kama, Lobha, Dayaschaye. All of these things that dominate our lower nature that we have to confront during anartha nivritti, those are slain one after another. So you see in the story, Kamsa comes and kills each one of them. And so, here's the connection. Viśvanāth Cakravartī Ṭhākur says that Devaki's fear of Kamsa means that she overcame the lower nature by being afraid of the implication of Kamsa and the lower qualities are represented by these sadgarbha asuras. So what they say that gives us access, that's practical, is we should be afraid of material nature. In other words, we shouldn't accept the status quo that, oh, well, everybody has this lower nature, and therefore it's okay. But we should be afraid of material nature to the degree that we're reticent about involving ourselves in it. And by that fear, he said, then those lower qualities are defeated, and one after another. And just a balancing verse, because we don't also want to become neurotic and antisocial and not be able to interact with the world. A favorite verse of mine and a favorite verse of many, because it describes this position of anartha nivritti that we may be involved in for some time. It says, Jata Shraddha Makkatasu Nirvina Sarvakarmasu Veda Dukkha Makam Kamams Prityagi Pyanishvara Tato Bhajeta Mamprita Shraddha Drita Niṣṭhāya Jushamanam Shtatam Kamams Dukho Darkams Tukarayan. And this is Krishna speaking to Uddhava. He says, our faith is awakened. Jata Shraddha Makkatasu. We know that hearing is what we want to do, but nirvinas sarvakarmasu, we also know we're disgusted with the idea of being involved in the material world. Veda dukkha akankamams, we know that enacting lustful activities in the material world leads to misery. We know all that, it's clear. But that Pyanishvare means that, but we still don't have the power to resist. We haven't developed that strength yet. So sometimes overcome by those things. So he says, Tato Pajetam Amprita Shraddha Drita Niṣṭhāya. He said, Krishna's giving encouragement, like a pep talk. Keep on with the process, because you will overcome these things. Because a person who's trying to overcome them is very dear to me. As in, apichet sudaracharo bhajate mamananya bhak sadhureva samantabhya samyag vyavasito hisa. From the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, even if somebody is displaying their lower nature, but their intention is that I want Krishna. He said, you consider that person, he's giving a direct order, you consider that person a sadhu, because they're properly situated and they're trying. You can't take advantage of the verse, otherwise you're immediately disqualified. That ruins the whole mood of it. But if you have that and you're trying, then Krishna says you'll be successful. Keep trying, because you have to remember the 2 inches. One is your endeavor, the other is Krishna. And Prabhupada mentions in the line of the Bhagavad that when you take to the process of devotional service, you even have one moment of clarity and say, I'm doing this. Then even if you change your mind, it's too late. He writes, you'll be forcibly dragged. And so, as I said in the beginning, you could do this the easy way or the hard way. I mean, the easy way is just to get smart and say, I'm just going to surrender to Krishna. I'll just take the whole thing. I'll take the whole package. I'll just surrender and just dedicate everything to Krishna. And the hard way is you're halfway in, halfway out, getting dragged. And then it's embarrassing to the soul. But even if you are that way, it's still, he says at the end of the verse that I was quoting before the Sarvadharman, Ghariyan, you can feel a little sense of remorse that, I can't take this fully, but don't get overwhelmed by it. Because if you take too much, it's like hing or asvatita, you put too much in and you ruin the whole preparation. It stands out more than anything. So Ghariyan means a little remorse that, I wish I could do this better. That should be an inspiration and not a cause of depression that I can't do this. No, you can always do it. And last point, one that I've always appreciated, Prabhupada quoted from Vedanta Sutra in the Bhagavad Gita verse purport. And Vyasadeva says, you should know that you can rise because, here's his logic, all the verses in the Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam, and all the Puranas are telling you to rise. Who are they talking to? If you couldn't rise, it would make no logical sense that they would even say that. It means that you can do this. And ultimate thing, if you're sincere and you keep trying, then Krishna helps all sincere souls to rise to that level, to come to this point, tada, rajas. And that day will come when we'll be able to say, ta-da! I know for myself that you can feel clean bill of health. It doesn't mean you should flaunt it, but it means you should be inspired by Krishna's mercy that somehow or other, by His grace and by the grace of the devotees, I've come to this point. Om Tat Sat. Dear Srila Prabhupada, dear Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Shri Shri Pancha Tattva, if you so desire, please give us strength to follow the path of the saints, go through anartha nirvritti and come to niṣṭhā, so we can stand on our own 2 feet and not be bullied by the senses. Thank you for considering our request. Om Tat Sat. Everyone agrees with this prayer in whole or in part. Please unmute and say Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Vanchakalpadabhrischa kripasinabheva cha patitanam bhavanibhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha.